I'm Matt Hernandez, and this is Book Chat with You. Today we'll be looking at a short story, again by Carol Shields, uh, called Sailors Lost at Sea. So rather than bounce between different authors and different short stories, maybe I should finish one collection at a time. My friend told me that the bed in the background was a bit tacky. I can't help that. I'm stuck with that bed in that room. But maybe I can try this white background, and maybe I'll get more than 0 viewers on YouTube, and I don't get any replies on Rumble and such. But let's begin. So this is a short story. It's about a 14-year-old girl named Helena. Um, she goes with her mom from Winnipeg, Canada, to Saint Croix, France. Her mom is there on a grant to write poetry. Now, in this story, her mom becomes quite enamored by this, which we get the impression that Helena is not as enamored by this. It must be maybe some kind of teenage angst to just not be as infatuated with the same things that our parents are into. So maybe I should think about how I introduce my sons to 80s pop music because I hope they like it as much as I do. So in the story, there's just a few characters are mentioned, but really the whole story is Helena walks into a church. She gets locked in, and she's wondering how the heck am I going to get out of this? Though so much of the story revolves around this church, I don't view this in any way as a religious story. It could be because living out here in China, it is Chinese New Year's right now, and I guess some regulations have been passed so that way fireworks don't go on from 6 in the morning until 2 a.m. But there will end up being some kind of fireworks going on at some point, I'm sure of it. And, I don't think that most Chinese people still feel that they're warding off demons at this point. I think at this point it's just a cultural thing, which I imagine is the same thing with the church. Of course, in the story, there's a man mentioned named priest named Father Dominic, who I imagine he is quite devout in his practice, but I do not imagine in any way that I'm talking Christianity or Catholicism or anything like that. It's just a cultural heirloom at this point, is what I imagine. Maybe if somebody could tell me that I'm wrong, I would be very interested because, of course, the point of all these is to have a dialogue about these stories and such. So, so I guess that's one thing I could talk about. Oh man, I hope my dog is not too loud in the background. It is so hard to find whatever decent setup to try to make these. So I guess there's a few things to talk about. Traveling with teenagers, being inside of a new place and being infatuated with it. I mean, as I make the plans to move out of China, and back home, there are some things I will really miss about being here, but it's not the same, honeymoon phase, one could call it, that I had living here years ago. Um, Many more things are quite a bit more annoying nowadays than maybe they used to be. And I do get a bit of that impression from this story as well. So, well, that's the whole story. She goes into a church. She's locked in. She's wondering how she's going to leave, and she's sort of in. I mean, the whole story is told in third person, but it's quite limited to just the 14-year-old teenager, Helena. It mentions their annoying landlord for where they're living in France, and her mom's boyfriend named Roger. But other than that, I mean, it's all just through her mind, through remembering or whatever. I'm sure there's a more eloquent way to put that, but as always, I'm going to read 2 pages that stuck out to me. Of course, I had to find some kind of pages that go with this title, Sailors Lost at Sea, because I mean, it's sort of a vibe that we get, but in no way are they sailors lost at sea. So, what does it mean to have that kind of feeling? I mean, would you feel to be a sailor lost at sea? And if you've been on a ship, then I'm sure maybe you would use a different expression, perhaps. I don't know. Okay, page 52. I'll read it aloud. Father Dominic had explained to them that it was no longer served by a priest. Nowadays, there was but a single Mass celebrated here each year. It was he who had the privilege of serving, and that on a certain spring day set aside by tradition to honor sailors who had been lost at sea. On that particular Sunday in early April, the doors would be thrown open and people would enter carrying armloads of spring flowers. After that, the procession would wind over the rocks and down the beach itself. When Helena's mother heard Father Dominic talking about this festival, her eyes have softened with feeling, and she had nodded as though she too had had occasion to pay tribute to lost seamen, which, of course, coming from Winnipeg, she had not. That will be something to see, she had said to Helena, and wrote the name of the festival in her notebook. In that moment, seeing her mother writing down the details of the fate, oh my gosh, and imagining the blonde sunniness of this festive day, Helena truly understood that they would be staying here the entire year, and that their drifting, which she had loved all 10 days of it, would not be resumed. The old church stood just outside the village on the Rue de Tienne, um, and the same street where they had found a house to rent. We've installed ourselves a cheap stone house in Dog Street, Helena's mother had written in a cheerful letter to a friend back home, as though having an inelegant address gave them an unconquerable ascendancy over the difficulties the little stone house presented. There it stood, surrounded by drenched shrubbery, a dragging lace of rain falling from the corners of the steep roof. The landlord, a scowling, silent widower with 3 teeth in his head, lived in the basement, and his presence cast a spell of restraint over them so that they tiptoed about the house, his house, in bedroom slippers and spoke to each other in hushed, formal voices, more like a pair of elderly sisters than a mother and daughter. The bathroom stank despite the minty blue deodorizer. Yeah, so I mean, I could definitely relate to that, getting a place, and my last apartment was leagues better than my current apartment. Probably amongst them is that maybe I would have had a better space to record these, and if my friend had been right that, a bed in the background's so tacky, well, amongst that, but the last apartment actually had central heating, and the installation was much better. There wasn't such a smell from the bathroom. But I mean, I've lived here long enough to complain about these things, but maybe at first we ignore some of these things and we don't let them get to us. And I mean, Winnipeg is landlocked. Right above, what is it, Detroit, I believe? I don't know. I will say I believe. Please don't scrutinize me, even though nobody leaves comments. But um, it is landlocked, right? I don't know if there's any large rivers or something that flow near there, but it is a landlocked place. So to have a feeling as if you can connect to that is a bit silly, right? Here, one last one on page 54. Okay. Recently, Helena's mother, as if to make up for the lack of poems, had latched with fevered intensity onto particles of local lore, prizing them out of Michelin guides and storing them up in notebooks. Not the same notebooks the poems went into, but pale green spiral-bound books with squandered off pages, notebooks meant for young school children that she bought in the village at the Maison de la Presse. In one of these notebooks she had recorded, there are 2 legends surrounding the founding of St. Quay, stories that contain similar elements but that occupy different sides of a coin. In the good story, a 4th century Irish saint called St. Quay arrives in a stone boat to bring Christianity to the wild Breton coast. A bird flies away to tell the villagers of his imminent arrival, and the women, why just women, joyfully run to the shore to greet him, bringing with them armloads of flowers and calling St. Quay, St. Quay, guiding the boats safely to their cries. And the second version, the bad version, the same bird arrives to say that a stranger is approaching in a stone boat. The women again, of the village are suspicious are suspicious and hostile, and they run to the shore with rough stalks of gorse in their hands, which they brandish ferociously, all the time crying quay, quay, which means in Old Gaelic, away, away. Yeah. So I wonder if at all we can connect to that, the origins of our hometown and the city in China that I live in. It has a pretty interesting history going back. And same thing with Las Vegas. But I'd imagine, I don't know, I'd imagine most people might live somewhere whose hometown does not have such a storied and fascinating history and such. But I don't know. Well, that's all that I have for now. I think this video is long enough. I hope you have a great day. I would love to talk about this story with you. Bye.